How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Chaos Head. So, by the way, I don't know if you can see me. We had a crisis happen when I recorded the Yakuza, Kiwami episode, where the footage seemed to be capturing on the webcam. Everything looked good. I hit stop the recording, and it normally stops recording and saves it. But then there was some kind of crash, and it just deleted it all. So, there was just no webcam for that. And that's fine. I mean, plenty of people make content like that, but I like the emotional connection. I feel like it's good to have facial expressions and, see the body language as well. I just like that. I personally appreciate it in content I watch. But again, there's plenty of content I watch that doesn't do it. Some of my favorite creators, RT Game, Media True Nerd, they don't do web face cam of any kind, and I still think their content's fantastic. Well, I guess that's not technically true. RT Game, Dan does sometimes put himself on the camera, but it's a rare thing. He doesn't do it all the time. But anyway, they're also much better at being entertaining than I am, but that's que sera. We are here now. Hopefully I'm there. If not, that's my explanation for it, but we're going to move on because, stuff started happening. Stuff's happening now. So last time we had the kickoff of the big explosion of some kind of energy release. Apparently Nozomi was involved or was instigated it, but it was a little more extreme than they were expecting. But I guess their internal machinations. I guess they mentioned the Council 300, which is a cool name drop. I guess I didn't realize, but from the sound of it, I think someone mentioned how did this come out before Steins Gate or after? Because I thought Steins Gate was the earlier title, but perhaps I'm wrong there. But it's kind of fun to see those two having some kind of interlinking crossover and making direct references to each other's lore, at least a little bit in that regard. So that was fun. And then we also had Fez getting to that super depressive state, and just her whole world perception was just so twisted. She decided to leap, and then we somehow pulled a flower bed of safety out of literal nothing, which was really interesting because it's pretty clear that he's been able to tweak reality unconsciously for a little while, ever since he was a kid, it sounds like. But that's going to be the first time we have a direct connection between something he wished would happen and it manifesting just like that. So yeah, I imagine things are about to kick off real good here. So very exciting episode for this one, I think. Let's jump into it because we got to figure out how is Taku gonna digest what just happened, and are we going to see Rimi? Because so far we went to school to find her, didn't see her at all, even with all the chaos going on. I'm still thinking that there's something odd about her. He did make a point in the last episode how it seemed like she always just appeared whenever he needed her or whenever she would be able to help, but today she didn't. And I wonder if that disruption with the explosion might have had something to do with it, because part of me is not entirely convinced that she's real. But then again, our other friend, who I also think might not be real, was there, so who knows? We'll find out. I imagine I'm well off when it comes to plot and guessing, because there's just so much mystery and so much buildup that has no real concrete consistency or rule sets yet. I don't know what's actually happening, but I get the feeling we'll start getting a decent picture now. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's jump right in. I bolted away from the school as fast as I could. I ran all the way to the park. Only when I felt like I was about to suffocate did I stop. My lungs were in dire need of oxygen. As I gasped for breath, I took a quick look around the park. There was no one around. There was no one there I was afraid of. Neither Shogun nor Yuo were anywhere to be seen. Relieved, I tried to catch my breath. Yuo's another one too. She got a call right at the crisis, and something went wrong. She got very upset. So I think she might make a new appearance soon, but I'm not sure how, and I don't see us reacting well to it, but we'll see. It was almost evening. The sky's blue was slowly turning orange with twilight. Compared to the insanity at school that had felt so unreal, the park was completely quiet, just as it always was. The incident from before had ended just as a failed suicide attempt. Ayase had been taken away on an ambulance, but I had no way of knowing what happened after that. After going through all that, I gave up on searching for Rimi and came here to the park instead. That was crazy. The scene from only a few minutes ago was engraved into my mind. Back then, when Ayase's body came crashing down, I'd been convinced that nothing could have saved her. But then she had been saved. I don't know how exactly, but I at least knew she wasn't dead. She had been breathing, virtually unharmed, too. Under normal circumstances, she would have been absolutely died. The thing that saved her was a total miracle. She'd fallen on top of a tender soil of a flower bed. Even like a flower bed, though, to be able to save someone from a fall with very little damage, couldn't have been a normal flower bed. It would have to be like a flower bed cultivated to be very, very soft. Something that was physically impossible. It was physically impossible for Ayase to have fallen on top of a flower bed because there hadn't been a flower bed there. Just before Ayase had fallen, the place where she was going to fall had nothing but the gray asphalt of a parking lot. A number of the Suume teachers parked there. So how had a flower bed just appeared there? Also, isn't it like the wrong season for flowers? So why is a flower bed full in bloom out of season just materializing? I like how that's what stuck out to me more than the fact that it's like in a parking lot, but still, like that's what I was like, what the heck is happening? Had I done that? It was true that at the time I'd been so frightened that I deluded about how a flower bed appearing below her could save her. But even then, was it really possible? Was it really possible that the delusion had become reality? Okay, let's consider it. First, I had a feeling I might or might not have special powers. Second, there was the time Ayase had split in two, and now I just experienced something similar to that. So, creating a flower bed in an instant, how could I achieve something that extraordinary? I didn't even have a D-sword. Well, the other thing, too, is, like, I think a big part of all this, remember, I think I mentioned before, my theory is that explosion, that release of energy, I think might be setting the stage for greater, more powerful, more easily manifested delusions. I imagine delusions are things that resist and are pushed against by reality. Like, they're like almost paradoxes. So without like a will and a strong imagination to kind of force them into existence, they just kind of want to snap right back out of it. And pulling them through is also probably takes a lot of energy. But with that kind of like release of energy, maybe it's like weakened the barrier in Shibuya. Now, different dimensions can more readily bleed through, making it more lasting, more easy to pull off, and possibly even more permanent. We'll have to see. And on top of that, the flower bed had continued to exist after Ayase had crashed into it. When the teachers had rushed to check in on her, the flower bed, their footprints had been visible. The flowers blooming there, which had appeared to be the same as the ones in the courtyard, had been trampled over by the emergency services. When I looked, a number of flowers had either been flattened or had their stems completely bent. And the flower bed might still be there, in that state. A delusion had become reality, and it stayed that way. That's the craziest part, because the copy of Ayase at the time, it just kind of vanished. Even the D-swords, they kind of bubble away. If he comes back tomorrow and there's indications that that flower bed is still there, it might be a permanent change. And if delusions can start becoming permanent changes in reality, that's pretty dangerous. It hadn't disappeared afterward, which made it different from Ayase's other self. And everyone had accepted the idea that the flower bed being there was only natural. No one even questioned it. Had I seriously done all that?
Oi.
Oh. Oh. It's our best girl. The sharp voice calls me from behind before I even got the chance to turn around. A hand grabbed me by the collar. So I that was me, by the way. I clicked too early. I just remembered it. But there's no chance to resist. I was shoved violently against the playground equipment. I groaned in pain as my back hit the equipment hard. Yep, there she is. It was. And I hate to do this, but we missed our chance last time. It was her, Sena. She was the one tossing me around. She continued gripping my collar with tremendous strength. It grew hard to breathe. I tried to fight back by squirming and flailing around my arms, but she refused to let go. Her eyes were filled with a sharp, murderous light. It sent a shiver down my spine. Thinking I was about to die, I shook my head in desperate denial. Here's the thing, though. Like, why is she so upset? I don't get that. I mean, he saved her life, and I don't think he's working for that weird company. Alright, here we go. Buckle up. Let's see what I just did. Especially if delusions are more powerful now. I could feel Sena's breath on my cheeks. Just the thought of her only needing to move a bit closer to rip my throat out with her teeth genuinely terrified me. Staring at me, point blank range, Sena. Oh, fetch me. Oh no. Yep, that's a thing. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Super. Wow, it's definitely delusion. Yeah. Felt something soft pressed against my lips. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew is that I couldn't breathe and I was getting really dizzy. I tried to push myself away from her, but Sena was still grabbing me by the chest, so I couldn't move. Something began wriggling lustfully against my lips, and then it penetrated my mouth. It was twisted roughly around my tongue, slid across my gums, violated me orally. That's a phrase. I'm having some regret. Not too much regret, just a little regret. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was, for some reason, it felt really good. But I was having trouble breathing. I was about to pass out. But just before I would have, the wriggling object left my mouth. Aw, that's actually adorable. Then his lips glistened with saliva. She had been staring at me with murderous eyes only a few moments ago, but now her eyes looked utterly enchanted. Wait, had she just kissed me? What?
お前こそ勇者だ。お前の力を私に貸せ。私と一緒に戦え。拒否するのは許さない。
Yes, queen. Oh, jeez. After rattling off that insanity in an angry voice, Sena brought her face to mine once again. I'm guessing that was like the real dialogue. Maybe like something she actually said, or at least kinda said. She pressed her lips madly against mine and violated my mouth. God, why quit saying it like that? With her hot breath, a sweet saliva trickled past my lips. You know, it's kind of, I gotta admit, after all the craziness, it's kind of nice having like a more pleasant, if a little like invasive interaction. It feels more like, weirdly more like wholesome than the Rimi ones.
私は勇者に純血を捧げるために生まれてきた。
Oh no. Never mind. It immediately deviated from being wholesome in any way. In a state of pure ecstasy, she rattled off a line after line that made me think, what a rogue is this?
お前がいないとこの戦いには勝てない。さあ、血の契約を交わそう。
Oh, jeez. Ow! Then his teeth sank into my lip. Pain shot through me, and the taste of blood spread inside my mouth.
お前が欲しい。
Did she have any idea how to ask someone something? Even if she did, everything she'd said was completely absurd. But the sensation was basically getting reversed. He's okay. Well, to be blunt, that was hard. It was hard as a rock. I could get into this kind of roleplay. All right, yeah, let's turn that channel off.
おい、無視するな。
I shot back to my senses. Probably good. Sena was still grabbing me by the chest, and she had me pinned to the playground equipment. And her face was still really close. Our eyes met, my face went hot.
その力のことを誰に教わったんだって聞いているんだ。
That's the thing, no one did. I didn't remember her asking anything like that. Maybe that scenario from earlier was just a delusion I'd used to escape reality? Maybe? Despite me trying to wrap my head around the situation, Sena didn't seem to care and started shaking me violently.
誰からだ？答えろ。天聖信仰会とは関係あるのか？ないのか？
Cosmic Church of Divine... What is that? Alright, fictional, a newly founded religion. Inaugurated in 1930, the public estimate placed their number of followers around 5 million, but the actual number is thought to be closer to 2 million. Its members are characterized by their ardent, forceful proselytization, which often causes repeated trouble for anyone involved. Kuromochi Yudai is the second-generational founder, possessed absolute charisma, and in return his followers offer absolute reverence. So this is fictional, but I imagine it's based. There is a very aggressive proselytizing faith in Japan I've heard about, where you can kind of get essentially accosted walking around Tokyo because they're like Jehovah's Witnesses on steroids when it comes to just how like kind of invasive they are. Because at least Jehovah's Witnesses, like they're you know, they'll walk into your life and really push to want to talk to you about their message, but they don't like try and ambush you, which it sounds like the people whom this is likely based around will do. I wonder why they seem to be involved. Divine Church of the what now? I shook my head reflexively. I can't breathe. You're choking me. I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna die. I'm done for. Just before I lost consciousness, Sena suddenly let go of me and I collapsed to the ground. I kept on coughing, struggling desperately to get oxygen in my lungs. Was Sena my enemy after all? Was she another one of Shogun's underlings? If she was, then I had to run away.
関係ないならいい。悪かった。
Noticing my confusion, Sena clicked her tongue lightly, then let out a sigh. And then, without saying another word, she went to leave. Guess she wasn't going to hurt me, then... Mustering up all my courage, I called after her. Thank goodness. I'd expected her to ignore me, but instead she stopped and turned around. Her expression remained stern, but she still looked like she was willing to listen to what I had to say.
力って何なの?
Sena knew something. She'd asked me if I'd created the flowerbed from before. Everyone but me had recognized the flowerbed as something that had always been there, but that didn't seem to apply to Sena. Oh, interesting. Okay, so then this does remind me too of Steins Gate, because when Steins Gate, when they did the time leap, any changes they made, like when they were sending the messages, the D-mails, it like the world line would shift, but everyone like would all like cognition would re-snap to the new reality, so that what had always happened, and no one knew any different except for Okabe, who somehow was retaining his memories through time leaps. I wonder if these people have that similar ability. In fact, we learned in Steins Gate 0 that there are multiple people who can retain memories through time leaps. It was a phenomena that was like, it might not have been too unique to Okabe in the first Steins Gate, but it had become less and less unique as time moved forward from those events. I wonder if Sena, Ayase, Taku, all of them who have this ability to kind of manipulate dimensional like realities, I wonder if they would technically have that reading Steiner ability, as he called it. That ability to perceive and maintain a cognitive like I guess a lock or a cognitive focus despite changes in dimension. Because when the flowerbed appeared, everyone accepted it as if it had always been there. Like they had memories of it being there before. So it wasn't odd. So yeah, that's interesting.
さっきの花壇どうなって?
お前が妄想したんだろ?
A delusion. I had, but...
妄想は現実にすることが可能だ。
Yeah. Wow.
本当じゃないものが景色に紛れ込む。つまり、エラーを現実として認識させる。
でも、視界に映すだけじゃ、それって幻でしかないよ。
Yeah, that's true. Sena, because the Sena was talking about how like she used the chain to lure us in. That was a error that we could perceive, but nobody else could see or interact with. This is very different. This is something that became reality. So Sena's like kind of proposing that you can take a delusion that it seems that's essentially an illusion, except for some people, and make it real. And that's what he did, and that's very strange. Illusions were nothing more than that. Illusions, fake stuff you perceive as real. If that flowerbed had just been an illusion, then Ayase shouldn't have survived. The only way Ayase would have been saved was if the flowerbed hadn't been an illusion, but entirely real.
世界の仕組みは3つの数字で全て説明できる。0と1、そしてマイナス1。
Interesting. 0, 1, and minus 1. I understand 0, 1. Sorry, getting a little dry throat. 0, 1, like we use that as a binary code, but it's actually fundamental to just building blocks of life. I mean, when you get right down to it, like your body, the way it interacts, the way that the neurons fire in your brain, the way that nerve signals are sent, the way the muscles behave, the way that your cells reproduce, all of it, if you really break it down, breaks down into zeros and ones. I mean, even your DNA coding, like it has 4 different like attachments, but the attachments and the way they zip together essentially provide a strand that has a code of 0101, and that pattern is read by our our cells, and that tells the cells what to do. Like our whole bodies work off of a binary system. Then that's essentially what we've recreated artificially with computers, is a binary system that's the building block of a complex like pseudo-organism. Like if you really think of it that way, even my computer that's sitting right there is probably could be considered a organism in itself, very similar to, I would say, the level of something like an amoeba or a krill, something that can operate off of pure instinct and has its complex functions, but doesn't have a self-drive of its own. It's basically just there to exist and function as best as it can. It doesn't have a preservation instinct like animals do, but they need that in order as a foundational coding to function. A computer doesn't, because we invented them to be tools. So their existence is more predicated on service and capability of providing services and support. So it's almost more like, I wouldn't call it parasitic. It's more of a what's it called when symbiotic. It's a life form we created to be a symbiote with us. It's just mechanical rather than biological, but you really break everything down, zeros and ones, that makes sense. Negative ones, however, that flips the script a bit, because our a good example is binary. Again, a negative one in a binary core system wouldn't make any sense.
ディソードはそのマイナス1を生み出すためのショートカットになる。
Okay, so yeah, that's where it's diving out of the dimensions. It's leaving the traditional space.
だがお前はディソードなしでそれをやった。
Oh, so either he already has a D sword and he just doesn't really realize it yet. Maybe he had it when he was a kid and he's forgot about it or purposely pushed it away. Or he's something new. There she goes again, more incomprehensible garbage. Wait, but I realized that when Sena was telling me it wasn't just some schizo crap she'd come up with. The VR technology patent did exist after all, so that at least wasn't BS. Sena definitely knew things that I didn't.
いいか、これ以上エラーを作るな。
Why?
それがお前のためだ。
Yeah, but why? Can you tell us why?
それと、他にもエラーを見たら教えろ。
Without letting me even get a word in, Sena blasted me with the thing after thing, most of which sounded like threats, and then when she was finally done, she turned her back to me.
目に見えるものだけを信じられることが、どんなに幸せか。
That's true, though. If you start being able to manifest delusions and seeing that they can be turned into reality, what do you even believe is real anymore? And then you're seeing a clear organization that's utilizing and manipulating these systems and these weird dimensional shifts, that technology that was brainwashing a bunch of people. That's very similar to what most likely led to those 5 kids jumping off that roof. That would be horrifying. And it starts becoming a Matrix problem. The problem with the Matrix was that once people woke up and realized that they were living in a simulation, it's what even is real anymore? And how do you find your footing when you can't tell what's real and what's not? And when you're in what you know is not real, the simulation, it's so much more pleasant than what reality is. It's I kind of get why. What was his name? God, it's been a while since I watched The Matrix. Cypher, who betrayed them. His whole reason was the real world sucks. I'd rather just have a comfortable life in the simulation. After spitting out the last murmur this time, Sena finally left the park. Well, I mean, that was something. I mean, it would be a lot more helpful if she told us why it was dangerous. All right, General Hospital. The floor of AH Tokyo General Hospital that housed the psychiatric ward was engulfed in silence. Ever since the earthquake had struck, the emergency room and surgical ward had been faced with a difficult situation. Injured citizens who had lost consciousness due to unexplained symptoms were being carried into the clinic one after the other. The psychiatric ward, meanwhile, was not nearly as involved with the relief efforts, nor were the outpatient facilities, allowing the latter department to conclude its operations even earlier than usual. Over the last few days, patients suffering from PTSD had come pouring in, but at least for today, the psychiatric ward had finished with its outpatient appointments. A nurse there, Hazuki Shino, realized that she had been working nonstop ever since her shift began the night before. She'd hardly even taken a break. This obviously left her feeling quite exhausted and, of course, hungry. I think I saw a random post. I try and avoid stuff about this, but someone, it was a really random thing. They didn't post about the Chaos Head very much, but they had a picture of her and they said why is it always in why in VNs when a side character is the most attractive character in the game? He's I can see it. She's definitely cute, but yeah, she's a side character, right? The psychiatric ward had recently lost one of its doctors in the NewGen incidents, and the person replacing him had yet to arrive, leaving them constantly understaffed. However, despite the shortage, all that remained for today's work were some minor chores that Hazuki could pass off to the next nurse, allowing her to take some time off. Reassuring herself that she only had to persevere for a little longer, Hazuki slapped her cheeks with both hands and began to walk through the empty lobby. I absolutely do that. I work third shift, so I work through the night, and you hit those moments sometimes where you're just like, you're exhausted, and your body's just screaming at you to sleep, and you're just like, psh, psh, like, get going. Only the sudden feel of gaze on her back. Chills ran down her spine, down the nape of her neck. Goosebumps rose across her skin. She reflexively looked behind her, but all she saw was a silent corridor. Not a soul was there.
Huh?
Kangoshi-san.
Hazuki jumped in surprise. She heard a voice come from an entirely different direction. The origin of the voice was a single man standing in the lobby, which Hazuki had been convinced was empty. He called out to her name the moment he first saw her. Oh, it's you. He was a fairly young man and appeared quite virile. His complexion was nearly faultless. He looked just as, if not more, healthy.
あなたは。
ちょっと時間もらっていいっすか？
はあ。
どうもっす。
He smiled awkwardly, abruptly grabbed Hazuki's arm, and started walking her from the lobby toward the stairs. That's kind of concerning. Hazuki, still quite bewildered, watched as the man, Mamoru, took out a black ID badge from his pocket and humbly held it out to her. It was a police badge. Stopping at the landing of the staircase, Suwa looked around carefully, seemed to be very concerned with his surroundings.
それで、お話って。
So, like, he's worried that he's being watched, but the problem is he is, because, like, the eyes snapped onto her right before he showed up. They clearly want to keep an eye on him. Still having quite a bit of work left to do, Hazuki was feeling slightly restless, something Suwa seemed to understand implicitly. And then, without any form of introduction, Suwa produced a photo from his pocket. By the way, I was actually just thinking about that whose eyes are those eyes, but people feel like they're being watched? What if it's not that they're being watched, but what if they're watching? Like, what if they're able to, like, essentially copy, like, what your visual cortex is, like, producing live? So essentially they can stream what you see like a camera, like they've hacked into a camera feed, and so they just watch what you're seeing and maybe tap into what you're hearing too.
この少年に見覚えないっすか?
Oh. Depicted in the photo was an apathetic face of Nishijo Takumi. Hazuki's confident in her ability to recognize faces due to her profession, nodded her head.
Nishijo Takumi. 間違いないっすか?
ええ。でも。
Hazuki's hesitation was only natural. Leaking a patient's private information could only spell trouble, even if it was to the police, but this was something Suwa had been aware of prior to speaking with Hazuki. Yeah, like, this dude should have a warrant if he's asking questions like this. Suddenly, Suwa's light attitude that he had been displaying up until that moment shifted to a far more serious one. He began to speak in a low voice.
頼みがあるんすけど。
Uh-huh.
西条匠のカルテ、こっそり見せてもらえないっすか?
That's super illegal.
そんなの無理です。できません。
とある事件に関わる重要なことなんすよ。
Then get a warrant! Now, at a complete loss for words, Hazuki tried to leave, but Suwa circled around her and blocked her path.
困ります。
迷惑はかけないっす。だから頼みますよ。
As a last resort, Suwa got down on his knees.
やめてください。本当に無理なんです。
これ以上犠牲者を出さないためにも。
Hazuki had no idea what she could do to make him give up. Unable to think of any proper way to say no, Hazuki could do nothing but stammer. Does he actually get that info? Oh, man. I was in a bit of a daze after Sena left, but quickly shook myself out of it and just dashed all the way back to my base. Luckily, I hadn't been confronted by Shogun or Yua on the way. In the end, I'd come back home without finding Rimi. With all the insanity caused by Ayase and the earthquake, the school would probably let everyone go home early. So maybe if I waited a bit, Rimi would show up. In the meantime, though, I just had to suck it up and deal with my own fear alone. To distract myself from my growing anxiety, I went to try and gather information on my freshly restored PC. Right as I thought that, the notification light on my phone, which I'd set right next to my monitor, started blinking. When I opened it, I saw I'd received a text. I thought it was Rimi trying to contact me, but when I opened it, oh wait, the dress from the emails. OMG is not on me. That's a great call. Gotta tell you about school today. Something crazy happened to school today. There was a suicide attempt. It was so freaky. I haven't been that scared in a while. Sniff. I hope she's okay. Were you at school when it all went down, big bro? Oh wow, that earthquake was crazy too. It gave me a really, really, really bad headache though. What was that all about? Aw, our little sis. So she kind of enjoyed being part of the spectators, huh? That's not fetched up at all. Naturally, I didn't send a reply. I still love her email. That's so good. I searched online for information on Ayase. Phantasm's official homepage was still down. And none of the newspapers had reported on her either. Well, I guess they had their hands full with the earthquake, so they couldn't really spend the time reporting on some random indie singer suicide attempt. Where things were now, I had no way of figuring out how exactly Ayase was doing, so I switched topics. There was way more information on the earthquake than when I checked earlier. Apparently, the death count had risen to 118. The injured went above 300. Wow, I never thought the fatalities would go beyond 100. The epicenter was Shibuya, and it seemed the damage hadn't spread outside of it. It had been a seismic intensity 5 quake. According to the one article, most of the magnetic media within Shibuya had been destroyed. When I thought about how I wasn't the only one to experience such a tragedy, it made my frustration erupt all over again. Yeah, magnetic. So it was a magnetic wave, so rather an EM wave. But still, that makes sense. It was true, undeniable tragedy. My treasured moai pictures and eroge save data, they would never come back. That aside, I couldn't help but feel that this was no normal earthquake. 118 people dying wasn't normal. And of course, that abnormality had grown into a hot topic of discussion online. Alright, let's see. You guys think the earthquake caused by whose eyes are those eyes guy too? Nope, wrong button. Well, what the heck? Whose eyes are those eyes for the win? Are you serious? Yeah, 100%. How else would 118 people die in an SI5 earthquake? Like, what the fetch? Jeez. How are they all such good carry a-holes? I tried to think back to what had happened during the earthquake. First, I'd been hit by a tremendous impact. My head had felt like it was boiling, exploding, even a sensation I'd never experienced before. Getting hit by something that bad, dying from shock wouldn't be all that surprising. Telling myself that I shouldn't stick to just the internet, I decided to watch some news on TV as well. My PC had a TV tuner attached to it, so that was why I didn't have nor need an actual TV. Is that a thing? I mean, it must be a thing. It kind of would make sense, but that's odd.
現在までに死者118名、重軽傷者300名以上と非常に多くの犠牲者が出ていることが分かっています。さて、渋谷の駅前と中継がつながったようです。島谷さん、現地の様子はいかがですか
？2005年に同じように震度5の地震が東京であったんですよ。その時はゼロで、なぜ今回は100名以上の被害者が出ているんですか？
Now, are these numbers like indications of how violent the earthquake was felt in these areas, or is it victims? Because if it's victims, and you're having victims so far away from the epicenter, that denotes a lot more interest. That seems a lot more interesting.
被害者の数は震度に比例するわけじゃないんです。そこには様々な要因がありまして。亡くなった方の死因や病院に運ばれた負傷者の容体については、未だ詳しい情報が入っておりません。
I think a lot of them are people who passed out like Taku, but like were in a vehicle or something at the time.
また、渋谷区を中心に磁気メディアが全壊してしまっていることについて、今日は専門家にお越しいただいております。
地質学産業研究所より林原泰造先生、財団法人地質調査環境センターより小沢幹人先生にお越しいただきました。
Interesting. I wonder if they're going to talk about that weird that magnetic like field effect that they were talking about before, but was being hushed up.
林原さん、今回の地震について磁気メディアに深刻な被害が出た原因というのはどういうところにあるんでしょうか？
まず知っておいていただきたいのは、渋谷区あたりの地下200メートル付近には磁鉄鉱、 つまり天然の磁石が多く埋蔵されている地層があるということですね。
Yeah, that makes sense.
地層の分類としては火成岩層ですが、私たちはこのエリアを磁鉄鉱の谷、マグネタイトバレーと呼んでいます。地中にある磁石の谷ですね。文字通りかなり大規模な岩脈なんですよ。
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. And you can get like natural rocks that are charged and like aligned to have magnetic fields.
ここにですね、今回の地震のような大きな刺激が加わったとするならば、その影響で地上に存在する磁生体、主に磁気メディアの持つ記録部に、致命的なダメージを与えてもおかしくはないんです。
I guess I'm not 100% sure on this, like how realistic this is. I do think this is more like pseudoscience-y, because from what I understand, especially with natural magnets, they don't usually get more powerful with stimulus. We can make electromagnetics that we can add more energy to and make the magnetic field stronger. Like that's basically how an MRI machine works, right? Like it has a passive magnetic field because the magnets have to be really powerful, but then when it's actually in use, they're being charged, and magnetic fields get a lot stronger. So I can see that functionality translating into the real world, but natural magnets are not the most efficient, and I don't know if they could just receive stimulation and make their magnetic field shift and expand or warp significantly, especially from a kinetic shake. If anything, I think kinetic shakes would make the magnetic forces of these stones less powerful and less pronounced, because it would disrupt the natural alignments of the different molecules, which allows for the magnetic field to generate. So, not sure about this.
何をバカな。
小沢先生は別の意見ですか？
確かに渋谷の地下には巨大なマグネタイトの岩脈があることは事実です。ですが、磁石と呼ぶにはあまりにも微弱なこのマグネタイト群にはですね、地上の磁気モーメントや安定磁場を崩すほどの力はないというのが通説になっています。
It's funny though, because in this universe, in this world, that's proven wrong. Like, just the detective was able to absolutely see that manifesting in real life. So that's absolutely false.
実際ですね、過去にも震度5の地震は何度も発生しています。過去のそれらの地震では今回のような被害はなかった。
I would argue that maybe, but have those magnitude 5 earthquakes occurred that close to this site? I guess they've had stronger earthquakes that probably were, but I'd say like it's one of those like modern era things. A good example, I believe in like 1918, the Earth was hit with a powerful solar flare, and like at that time we had like telegraph wires and some basic electronic devices, and like they were like supercharging. People were getting electrocuted from wires that normally carried like a charge that's maybe like equivalent of a light bulb, and that I think also like light bulbs were exploding, and like people were getting like a lot of like charge, because like the Earth was just bombarded with electromagnetic radiation, and it kind of ripped through our normal magnetic field that protects us and was able to supercharge the planet. And we've talked about how like if that happened in the modern world, that would have been that'd be an absolute disaster. It would obliterate like infrastructure, internet, satellite communications. It might even destroy satellites. And like the only reason it wasn't a huge disaster was because technology wasn't advanced enough and sensitive enough to that type of stuff. Nowadays it would. So maybe it has happened in the past in Japan, but it just hasn't happened to trigger this event before, and at least at a time when technology was sufficiently advanced enough for it to really manifest.
なので、原因は別にあるのではないかと考えるのが妥当だと思います。そうは言うがね。今回の異常な犠牲者数については、ただの地震では片付けられない何かがあるのが事実なわけであり、渋谷にいた人のほとんどが頭痛がしたって訴えていることからも、間違いなく磁鉄鉱が関係している可能性が。
磁場ごときで100人も殺せると主張するおつもりですか？
それではここで CM です。
That guy's about to be assassinated.
結局、詳しいことは何もわからずか。
Right after the earthquake, there had been a huge white mist floating above Shibuya. It turned the sky completely white, and yet it hadn't even been mentioned on the news. When the information had been fresh, everyone made sure to report on it. But now they were acting like it never happened. Something about that just felt wrong. I agree. There's some fishy stuff going on. But I think it has something to do with the idea that, like, how the flower bed has been just accepted as being real now. Like, something changed. The off-hours attendance at Tokyo General Hospital featured an area where ambulances could pull up alongside the building in order to deliver emergency patients. 2 ambulances were currently parked there, and paramedics were carrying those injured during the earthquake into the hospital. A doctor wearing light green surgical scrubs and a middle-aged head nurse accompanied him were loudly directing the paramedics through the process. The area around the off-hours entrance was already lined with patients waiting to receive treatment, the sheer number of which indicated how busy the doctors truly were. There were 2 types of patients getting carried into the hospital. First, the ones suffering from physical trauma, patients who had come with blood flowing from their arms, legs, foreheads, their faces contorted in pain. While the state made them difficult to look upon, their treatments had been regulated as low priority. The other type were those who were unconscious despite showing no signs of physical trauma. These patients were prioritized. The number of unconscious people was awfully high among the emergency patients brought in from this particular earthquake. As such a high number could not be observed following the previous major earthquakes, it was an entirely new phenomena. Moreover, doctors were unable to explain the reason why so many of them had fallen unconscious. It's like their brains had been microwaved. Okay. Oh, yeah. Not sure why that transition, like, that almost seems like there was like a sound or a visual that was supposed to play that didn't play for some reason. Another ambulance arrived at the hospital and sirens blaring loudly. When the emergency responders disembarked from the ambulance, a doctor asked the patient's condition, and the paramedics immediately responded with, that was all it took. In a normal situation, the doctor would have protested, asking for more information. As such an unprecedented chaotic situation, one would have expected that just shouting top priority be answered with a succinct, "You don't say!" And yet, surprisingly, both the doctor and the head nurse merely gave a light nod, then proceeded to help unload the stretcher from the ambulance. The person lying on the stretcher was Kishimoto Ayase. She was unconscious, yet faint moans escaped her lips. Paying no mind to the resentful gaze of the injured patient sitting around the entrance, the doctor and paramedics hurriedly carried the stretcher inside the hospital. Oh, interesting. Why are you here, of all places? A girl stood at the hospital's main entrance, observing the situation from a distance. Sakihata Rimi's eyebrows furrowed atop her stern expression. Her teeth sank into her lip.
Kishimoto-san.
So Rimi is involved in at least somewhat. She at least knows more than she's admitted. And she probably is trying to protect us by trying to stop us from summoning a D-sword. Obviously, I was concerned about the earthquake, but Shogun was way more of an issue to me. Couldn't get him out of my head. And speaking of, my headache was more or less gone, but anxiety had already swooped right in to replace it, as did the depression that came with being alone. I still hadn't heard from Rimi. I'd tried to call her myself, but had gone straight to voicemail. Up until now, Rimi had always come dashing in to rescue me, to tell me everything would be fine. So, of all days for her not to do that, why today? And she told me that she would always stay by my side. See, like, we now know that's not the case, but my thought would be like, what if she's one of the victims? I'm amazed he hasn't thought of that. I gritted my teeth, and then, as a way to escape my anxiety, decided to focus entirely on reconfiguring my PC. First things first, I needed to fix the setting on my email software. It'd been forever since I'd first set it up, so I couldn't remember how exactly to do it. So the first thing I had to do was find the instruction manual that had been included with the email software provided by my ISP. Despite not putting in much actual physical work, I found myself drenched in sweat. I'd nearly given up out of frustration multiple times throughout the process. It ended up eating a full hour of my time, half of which was spent trying to find the darn manual, just to recover my email address. Well, now that I had it back, I should check it right away. Oh, lovely. Oh, wow. I like, look at these titles. That top one, that is something else. Holy crap. Husband cheated on me. Like, there's the one we're going to be looking at. The whose eyes are those eyes. Urgent. Applicants needed. 20 positions open. Had a great time last night. Yeah, I've been gifted a honorary deposit at mind-blowing X. The homeless perv be my What are these spam letters? Holy crap. But yeah, hey, Nanami. That's Nanami. Why is she saying that? Ah, I could finally hear that voice again. Felt so relieved. All that pain and suffering had been worth it. I had 8 new emails, all of which were spam. Not all of them. Actually, hidden among the spam was an email with a strange subject line and an even stranger sender. Yeah, that's pretty weird. I groaned reflexively. What the heck? Was Nanami trying to prank me? If she was, then this was a pretty crappy thing to do. I genuinely wanted to punch her in the face. No, wait a minute. Nanami's the best. There was no reason for me to get an email from Nanami. She had never contacted me using computers' email addresses before. She'd always just texted me on my phone like she had earlier. And not only that, but I'd never given her my email address. Oh, then I would assume that that's a hack or someone who's got a spoof email. Was it just a coincidence? A fluke? Nanami was a common first name after all. And the phrase, whose eyes are those eyes, had been so popular pretty much everyone was using it. You can open that email, but don't click any links in there. There was nothing strange about it being used as a subject for a spam email. But just to soothe my anxiety, I decided to check the contents.
結構な長文だな。さっきはチャットで話ができて楽しかったよ。ちなみに送信者の名前はダミー。
Of course.
僕の名前は将軍だよ。
Oh, lovely. He's got us again. That implies he knows our sister, though. God, is it an alter ID, like an alter ego? It would make a lot of sense. Shogun? No, it couldn't be.
将軍が僕のメアド知ってるはずが。
Wait, what if Shogun had read my mind? If he'd done that, figuring out my email address would be child's play.
嘘でしょ?
The heck? Okay. I'm glad Ayase's safe. I initially planned to paint her as the next victim for my NewGen canvas, but suicide works too. You've outdone yourself, Takumi-kun. You got a new high score. I'm very impressed. You really are something special. Wait, so he's gonna make her his next victim. But he's implying that we did that? That makes no sense. We saved her. And then, oh, this is a horrifying line. But enough of that stuff. Let's talk about Nishijo Nanami-chan. Oh, love. Oh, I don't like where that's going. Yeah, okay. Nope. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk about Nishijo Nanami-chan. The two of you are siblings, so I'd love to see some juicy drama unfold between you two. Ever since the earthquake hit, Shibuya's been pretty bloodthirsty. Whether we can reach a conclusion so touching and blast away all that in an instant, that's up to you. It's really hard to clear questions unarmed, isn't it? You're a hero, so don't you feel you deserve a legendary sword to match? I know you do. So I hope you're looking forward to what I've got in store for you. This is horrifying. What the fetch? This is so messed up. This is genuinely horrifying. He's implying that he's gonna set us against her, or that she'll be set against us, and that it might I don't like that. As I read the email, seeing how friendly he was acting toward me, it only started to creep me out even more. This guy, he was insane. Why would he? Uh-oh. Oh, I don't like that. At 9 p.m. tonight, I want you to come to the roof of O-Front. You're going to be on TV, so make sure to put on a heroic tunic. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. P.S. Before I forget, did you get my present? He's talking about quests and high scores like this is all some sort of game?
僕は勇者なんかじゃない。ナイトハルトじゃない。
He was planning to finally kill me. I couldn't go. There was no way I could go. I wanted to run away. Rimi, I need you to protect me. Why wasn't she answering me when I tried to contact her? Maybe she'd been injured in the earthquake? But back when I'd seen Misumi-kun, he didn't mention anything happening to her. I picked up my phone and checked if I had gotten any calls or texts from Rimi.
来てない。
Rimi, where did you... Right as I thought that, something stopped me. It was my texts, all at the top of the list. I could see the text Nanami had sent me earlier. Was Nanami okay? I like how it's taking him that long to get to that. I read Shogun's email again from top to bottom. But enough about this stuff. Let's talk about Nishijo Nanami-chan. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. What was that supposed to mean? Forget that. I should just call Nanami. I opened the address book on my phone. Only 3 numbers were registered there. Rimi's, Nanami's, and the number from my parents' house. Nanami was always nagging me to call her. Every time we saw each other, she'd bug me about it. Well, since she'd asked so many times, I guess I could throw her bone. So please answer. If you don't, I'll never calling you again. How much you want to bet that phone call is what hits to the Nanami situation? It was like you may cross, and then the siren. That's not good. I swear to God, if you got injured during the earthquake and aren't answering because of it, I'll never let you hear the end of it. I selected Nanami's number and pressed the call button. I put the phone in my ear. I heard nothing. The ringtone didn't start immediately. It was normal for my phone to take a second whenever I called with it, but right now, that 1 second of silence felt like an eternity. I was getting increasingly antsy.
早くしてよ。よし、繋がった。
Okay. What? Why is it playing music? Huh, what? That sound, what was that sound? I pulled my phone away from my ear. An unfamiliar melody echoed throughout the room. Could it be a ringtone? I mean, it might be. They used to have that be a more common thing. Whose phone was ringing? But with the timing, what else could it be? I shook my head. What, is her phone here? I had never heard Nanami's ringtone, so there was no proof that the melody I was hearing was it. No proof at all. I was getting scared now. I pressed my phone back to my ear. I was considering hitting a delusion, but like I got kind of like sucked into that. I wanted to read it. Nanami still wasn't answering. Please pick up the phone already. Maybe I should call my parents instead? That'd be the fastest way to get a hold of her. Ignoring the mysterious ringtone I've been hearing for the last few seconds, I hung up my phone. That's really bad. I stopped. The mysterious ringtone stopped. My room suddenly grew quiet. It wasn't completely exact, but I was still sure of one thing. The song stopped. At almost the exact same time, I'd hung up the call.
なんで?
I was becoming more and more confused. Not knowing what else to do, I started looking around the room over and over again, but no matter how much I looked around, my brain refused to process any of it. I was just making myself dizzy. My mind had gone completely blank. Once again, I tried calling Nanami. Maybe this time, the ringtone won't play and Nanami will answer the phone. I said, in my days, those were the faint hopes I clung to. Gotta find it. Only for those hopes to be swiftly crushed. Less than 2 seconds after the call started, the happy-go-lucky melody started playing once more. There was no mistaking it. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore.
この部屋にある.
Nanami's phone was in this room. But why? Had Nanami forgotten it here, or... Shogun. P.S. Before I forget, did you get my present? This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. It didn't matter how much sense it made. It just couldn't be true. I slowly lowered my hand holding my phone. I couldn't even blink. My throat was dry as a desert. Even still, I searched for the source of the sound. This time I slowly, ever so slowly, examined each and every object scattered throughout the room. I hated myself more than ever for not cleaning my room. If only I was more organized, I could have spotted what it was coming from immediately. Where the hell was it coming from? Oh no. What's in the box? What's in the box? That box. The song was coming from inside of it. It was the size of an absolute 2 eroge cases. I like how he thinks in eroge cases. That's a unit of measurement. At first I thought it was something I'd bought online, but there was nothing printed on it. It wasn't a shipping label either. It was sealed with duct tape. That definitely is starting to lend the credence to that Shogun is potentially an alternate like ego to Takumi, because that means the person was able to get in here with this box, put it down. They know where he lives. They know how to get in, like they have a key. Had this large box always been here? Had it fallen from the bed during the earthquake?
Yeah.
It couldn't have. I'd never seen it before. If it was something I'd bought online, it would have opened straight away. If it was something I'd had sold or shipping to someone else, I'd have sent it off the moment I sealed it up. For a second, I considered maybe Nanami dropped it off, but I couldn't remember her bringing in a cardboard box this size. And why would she give you her phone? Which could only mean, during the hour I'd been at school, someone had entered my base. That's horrifying. I have a present for you. I hope it pleases you. My heart was beating out of my chest. In a panic, I went to check the lock on my door. A chill ran down my spine. Earlier in the day, when I'd wandered outside my base, I didn't remember locking the door. And I couldn't blame myself. At the time, I'd been suffering from a stabbing headache and I was really dizzy. When I'd come back from school an hour later, I hadn't locked the door. I hadn't locked the door then either. Anyone could have easily gotten in. Was it Shogun? Had Shogun really broken in? I looked at the box again. The song was still playing. Nanami's phone was still in there. I nervously lifted the cardboard box. It was heavy. Oh, I don't like that. With how heavy it was, there's no way it was just a phone inside. It weighed about the same as 500 milliliters of soda. I was hesitant to open it. I had a very bad feeling about this. I do too, bro. I do. I know, but you gotta. But there was nothing else I could do. I had to open it. I was too worried about Nanami. She was a total brat, but at the end of the day, she was still my little sister. Good man! Nanami's phone was in the box. In other words, someone had taken her phone from her. What's in the box? Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. That had been in Shogun's email. I looked at the clock. It was already past 3 at 7:30 p.m. Nanami might be in danger. I had no choice but to open it. My heart refused to stop pounding. Large drops of sweat began trickling down my forehead. With a moan, I wiped away the sweat with the back of my hand, and then I slowly took off the shoddily applied duct tape. Oh no! Brace yourselves. This is gonna be. I imagine there's only disturbing things ahead. Mumbling that like a prayer, I opened the box. Oh, I thought even worse. Inside was a lump of aluminum foil packed carefully with cushioning material. I peeked briefly inside the box, but the phone was nowhere to be seen. The song was coming from inside the foil. Sweat got in my eyes as it stung. Before I knew it, my entire body got soaked in sweat. No, I can't do this anymore. Why me? Why does this happen to be me? I nearly said those tearful complaints aloud. I pleaded with Sierra-tan for comfort, but she didn't say anything. My myriad of delusions swirled within my head, so much so that I felt like I was on the verge of exploding. I couldn't even focus hard enough to have a delusional conversation with Sierra-tan. My mind was racing so fast I couldn't even think straight, and yet, despite the near shutdown of my brain, the happy-go-lucky melody from the phone kept assaulting me relentlessly. Having made up my mind, I pinched the edges of the aluminum foil with my fingers. Closed my eyes, held my breath, and tore off the aluminum foil in one go. Ah, it's so bad. I could hear the song even more clearly than before. I was too afraid to open my eyes. Just do it. Just do it. We gotta know. We gotta know. Plus, you're on a clock, dude. I tried as hard as I could to catch my breath, but had no avail. It was fine. Everything was fine. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a harmless prank from Nanami. Just wait. Any second now, Nanami's gonna burst into the room with a big smile on her face, yelling, "Surprise! Haha, I got you!" Yeah, I was sure of it. There's no reason to even consider anything else. Once she did that, I lay into her like never before, then I never talked to her ever again. Go on, Nanami, prove me right. God, that music. I'm gonna have nightmares with this music. I had to open my eyes. I couldn't keep staring at the darkness. Not looking at it was only making it worse. All I did was force myself to imagine what horrors might be inside. I couldn't handle any more terrifying delusions. Come on, bro, do it. And so, I slowly opened my eyes and saw it. Are you freaking serious? Holy crap. Holy crap. Has the medallion. Holy crap. Lying in the foil was a hand. A cleanly severed, slender hand. Grasped in that hand was a phone identical to mine. And wrapped around its wrist was...
へえ、かわいいバングルじ
Alright, Taku, you call the freaking police!
ゃん。じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。ひひ、お兄、どう？似合う？
A yellow leather band that turned crimson. A bangle. Call the police right now!
ここからは少し専門的な話になりますが。
I hate you guys. I don't know what you're up to, but I feel like you're behind this somehow, and I hate it.
君は元医師だろ。患者に説明するように分かりやすく簡潔に話してもらえるとありがたい。
努力しましょう。さて、人間の脳の中にある何億という脳細胞。それらは細い神経の糸を出し合って、それぞれに手をつないでいるような格好をしています。しかし実際には各神経の先端にある手と手の間にはごくわずかな隙間が空いているんですよ。
Yeah, exactly.
脳細胞に情報の電気信号が送り出されると、その神経の手のひらから極小の物質、ドーパミンがボールのように飛び出してきます。それは反対側の神経の手のひらにキャッチされ、再度情報の電気信号に変わってまた隣の脳細胞に伝わっていく。脳の構造は簡単に言うとその繰り返しです。
It's pretty impressive when you think about that. It's like that the brain even like functions, that it's as like robust and like I guess how do I put it? It's as strong and resistant to damage as it is. Like, yeah, obviously brain damage is no joke, but you think about it, it's like people can recover from impressive destruction of their brains and nerves.
我が社が開発した第2世代ノア2はこの部分に干渉することで人に疑似的な映像を見せることを可能としました。
Dang.
ホログラムのようなものか。
Oh, I wonder if they're trying to imply that the hand isn't actually her hand. I hope, please, I'm grasping at straws here.
あるいは幻覚かな。
幻覚の方が近いでしょう。ですが明確に違う点として、その疑似的映像は確かな存在感があるものとして映るということです。
Yeah, that's a hallucination and it possesses weight and presence, but ideally it's only for the person viewing it. Like it feels real and tangible for that person, like too real, too tangible. Hallucinations are no joke, but an illusion would also, while it would be less tangible, would be observable by other people, where a hallucination is a singular experience.
人間の目、視覚というのは実に興味深いものです。視野は単眼の場合、鼻側60度、耳側100度程度、両眼の重複視野は120度で、周辺視野を含めれば180度から200度もの視界が広がっているんです。その一方で、以前ご説明したようなデッドスポットもまた存在する。
Yeah.
脳にとって視覚とは最もつながりの深い部位です。脳はそのおよそ 80% を視神経情報の処理のためだけに使っている。
I mean, that's very true. It's important for survival.
その点については300人委員会も注目しておる。
人間の視覚にはまだまだ謎が多い。世界中で研究テーマとして上がっているものだけでも1000以上に及ぶからね。
Yeah, I think my favorite one still is the study about how there were cultures that didn't have a word for the color green. I think it was green. And so like they would see, like those people would look at like a blue, like if you had like flashcards with blue and green on them, and you showed it to them, they would just see them as to say that they're the same. Like their brains like interpreted them as the same, which is really interesting.
アメリカで数年前に発行された行政命令、機密の人体研究に対する保護の強化、というのは委員会による圧力ですか？
圧力ではない。これは選定だよ。
300人委員会はどこの馬の骨とも知れん研究者がこの分野に足を踏み入れることを歓迎せん。当然ながらアメリカだけではなく世界各国にも同様の指示は出ている。
Alright.
我が国は随分自由のようですね。私のような人間を放置しているぐらいですから。
勘違いしてはいかんな。何のために我々がいると思っている？
君はすでに選定済みなんだよ。だからこそ君には何よりも成果が求められている。
Right, okay.
300人委員会をも出し抜けるような成果というわけですね。
うかつな口を聞くなと言っておる。
今はまだ我らの真の目的を誰にも悟られてはならない。たとえ委員会に対してもね。
これは失礼。
説明を続けたまえ。
ノア2が生み出した疑似的映像は視神経パルスに変換して電磁波として照射します。
Okay.
対象の皮膚や頭蓋骨を貫通して直接ドーパミン受容体、つまり先ほどの説明でいうところの手のひらにキャッチさせるのです。
Okay, so that's the idea. So they use EM radiation to penetrate into the brain, vibrating the cells and making them trigger the release of dopamine, simulating visual data that is then sent directly to the brain because the brain's the perceptions are reality for a brain, it just makes it real.
そしてデッドスポットへと最終的に落とし込まれる。特に G レートの高いエリアの人々は空中の映像パルス信号を敏感にキャッチします。
Okay.
混乱した脳はその疑似的映像を現実だと判断することになります。
So in certain places where the GE radiation is higher, or GE magnetic radiation specifically is higher, it's easier to send those signals into the brain. It's interesting too. So does that mean also that the time leap machine being located in in Akiba, the Tokyo area, perhaps it's still within the bounds of that like field of effect, even if it's not in Shibuya? It's like that regional like location is still like heavily influenced, and so maybe a time leap machine wouldn't work outside of the Tokyo area, or at least it would only work in specific places on the planet. That would be interesting.
これが人間の視界の中に無から有を作り出すメカニズムです。ノア2を用いれば街中のどこを見ても先生の選挙ポスターだらけなどという芸当も容易というわけです。ただしあくまで人々のバイオリズムが高い状態であることが条件ですが。
Oh, interesting. The biorhythms have to be in a high state. Why is that?
幻覚によって意志を誘導するか。沈黙の兵器とシステムは同じというわけだね。
Now, silent weapon. I'm going to read this. Devices designed to implement mind control on a global scale. They allow for automation of society and enslavement of all humanity, except for the few elite. Based on top secret documents, silent weapons for quiet wars discovered in the United States. The thing is that there's something kind of real to that. Like they've confirmed that there have been studies and unfortunately like targeted attacks using what would be essentially a silent weapon. It's basically a microwave or infrared gun that causes headaches and like physical reactions from inside a body that just don't seem to have an origin.
条件さえ満たせば対象の見ている世界を自在に書き換えることができる。
それはギガロマニアックスと同等の力ということか。
Gigalomaniacs? I don't know what that word is. I've never seen that before. I've heard megalomaniac, not gigalomaniac.
その通りです。 ノア2は機械仕掛けのギガロマニアックスと言ってもいいでしょう。理論値通りに稼働を始めればギガロマニアックスたちと同等、いや近い将来それ以上の能力を再現できるようになります。
だが効果の有効範囲はどうなっている？電磁波は垂れ流しなのかね？
それでは汎用性という点がおろそかになる。我々は無差別な洗脳を望んでおるわけではない。対象は選定できなければ無意味だぞ。
Alright.
ご心配なく。そのために機能因子を用意してあります。
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Is that the devices that we were seeing being tested in the parks?
モニターをご覧ください。
なんだこの小汚い連中は。
What?
我が社ではポーターと呼んでいます。
Okay, this guy.
言い換えればマインドコントロールのための部隊といったところでしょうか。
Mind control units. He's like an otaku. Like I was like, who's this lowlife? It's a mind control technique used to guide people to a predetermined conclusion while providing the illusion that the decisions have been of their own volition. Unlike brainwashing, however, it shows no clear evidence of coercive force. For example, a pedestrian may be stopped on the side of the road by a person calling out to them, I'm studying palm reading. The person says, if the pedestrian humors them, the palm reader may then invite the pedestrian to join their religion, creating an atmosphere in which feels like they can't refuse. This and a variety of similar tactics are all forms of mind control.
彼らが背負っているリュックの中にはノア2のパルス波を送受信するためのポートが入っています。ポートは信号を受け取るとリモートで周囲へと放出するわけです。
Right.
歩く端末というわけか。それならば有効範囲の制限などないに等しいな。
限定的使用も問題ないことになるね。
状況は理解した。貴様は引き続き計画を続行したまえ。
ただし300人委員会に悟られるような言動はくれぐれも慎むように。
あとは何人犠牲を出そうと構わん。
Because like just don't draw too much attention, but I don't care how many people die.
ご理解いただきありがとうございます。それではポーターとして使える人材を提供していただきたいです。
This guy sounds like he could be Shogun, but I don't think he is. Like, I think it might be trying to lead us in that path. I think he's an independent party, and Shogun's just maybe a tool for his, like, of his use.
手配しよう。
それと引き続き、先生方にはメディアのコントロールをお願いいたします。すべては我ら3人の目指す理想のために。
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure, buddy. Oh, well, that's great. Hey, Siatan.
タッキー。ねえ、タッキー。聞こえてるっしょ？
聞こえてるよ、セーラタン。
さ、もうこのゲーム終わりにしようよ。
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
ゲーム？
ナナミッチはタッキーの大事な妹だってのはわかるけど、きっともう手遅れだよ。
そんなことないよ。
だって腕を切り落とされちゃったらさ、普通出血多量で死んじゃうっしょ？ゲームだったら違うかもだけど。
なんでナナミが。
もうさ、ゲームオーバーなんだよ、きっと。
I don't like what you're trying to do. Go away, you demon.
早くゲームをやめないと、もっとたくさん人が死んじゃう。
If you don't quit the game fast, loads of people will die. Is that real?
でもセーラタンだって悪いやつと戦ってるじゃないか。
だって私は
Because I'm a hero.
アニメだもん。
For anime, she's like, that's true. Okay. Think we're gonna end here. Operation Save Nanami is next week. I have a real bad feeling about it. I don't like this. I don't like it at all. I think it's horrifying, and I really don't want bad things to happen to her. She was one of the best characters. Feels like stuff already bad has happened to her, but again, like they were just talking about how like you can make people see things that aren't real. Maybe the phone was in there, but maybe it was a prosthetic or like a mannequin hand, and then it was projected to look like hers. I really hope so. Really do. But I doubt it. I doubt it. We're in trouble, and I'm scared for Nanami. But let's let it fall out next time. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel, for being a part of this. And setup's pretty good. I'm terrified to see where it's gonna go, but we gotta see this through to the end. Ooh, you weren't lying when you said the story's really gonna kick off now, because oh boy, is it really kicking off now. But I'm not sure how it's gonna end. But it's interesting that his delusion is telling him that people are gonna die, that lots of people might die. I wonder if the worries, because if he can affect reality, right, and his delusions can change things, and he actually like starts manifesting, like somebody just wildly daydreaming things and making them real could literally destroy everything. And catch him on a bad day, put him in a bad situation, and he's essentially a reality nuke. And that's terrifying. So yeah, maybe that's the idea, is that like maybe like if he starts manifesting this power and he truly can manifest it in the effect that is being like implied, then it would be better if he were gone, because he's just too dangerous. There's too much, like, if his emotional state can determine like the survival of basically humanity in this entire like part of Japan, that's too much power for one person to have, especially a volatile, unstable teenager. But it's like, does that mean he should be just like, you know, take it out? Like, no, probably not. But maybe. It's just messy. Yeah, lots of stuff to explore. Very excited. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel and for being a part of this journey. Hopefully, you'll be here for next week, and that we'll be able to continue to find out what happens. But until we get there, thank you so much. And until the next video you're watching me, have to see me in next. See you there.